Good evening, all my dear students, and welcome in Cosmic classes, online and offline classes, and for JRF, NET, and SET examinations. So, the English syllabus is very vast, it's just like ocean. It is the ocean of the literatures. So, there are very major problems with students and about the syllabus because where should we start? So there are um, many edges in English literatures, and so I have choose one time the Victorian age, and I have selected some PYQs, very um, very important questions to know and recognize and imbibe the pattern of the questions and syllabus. So let's question number one. Which poet wrote the elegy in memoriam AH? As you know, there are four options. So Robert Browning, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Matthews Arnold, Giants Manley Hopkins. So correct answer is on the screen. Alfred Lord Tennyson's. Um, In Memoriam, A.H. is one of the most famous elegy of Victorian periods. Tennyson wrote in the memoriam of his close friend Arthur Hallam's. The poems reflects Victorian anxiety and faith, science, and death. It is also explored the conflict between religious beliefs and science discoveries. The Alfred Lord Tennyson is a very prominent uh, poet in Victorian periods, and Arthur Hallam was the very fast friend of the Tennyson's, and suddenly he was dead, and Tennyson's became very sorrowful, and he wrote a poem. It is called the Elegy. Now, next questions. Who wrote the Victorian novel Middlemarch? So there are four options: A. George Eliot, B. Thomas Hardy, C. Carl Dickens, D. William Thackeray. Correct answer is A. George Eliot. George Eliot was the pen name of Mary Ann Evans, Middlemarch, 1871 and 72. It is considered one of the greatest realistic novelists in English literature. It represents the details, pictures of provincial Victorian societies and examines themes such marriage, political reforms, and moral responsibilities. Now, next, which Victorian novelist wrote Hard Times? Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy, Elizabeth Gaskell, and George Meredith. So correct answer is Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is a very famous novelist of the Victorian age. Hard Times is a powerful critique of industrial capitalism and utilitarianism philosophy. Dixon exposes the harsh realities of factories life and the mechanical education system of the Victorian periods. The novel highlights the importance of imaginations, compassions, and humanities in society. Which Victorian poet is known for dramatic monologue? This is the most important because it is the genre of the Victorian age, and there are four options: A. Robert Browning's, B. Alfred Tennyson's, C. Matthews Arnold's, D. Dante Gabriel. Correct answer is Robert Browning's. Robert Browning's perfected the dramatical monologue, a poetic form in which a single speaker reveals his characters while addressing a silent listener. Famous examples include My Last Duchess and Andrew de Sareto. These techniques follows psychological explorations of characters. So dramatic monologue is very important. for Victorian age. Who wrote the Victorian novel Tess and the Arbarials? Thomas Hardy's, George Eliot's, Charles Dickens, Anthony Trollope's. Correct answer is A. Thomas Hardy's. Published in 1891, this novel is one of the Hardy's major works. It is criticizes the hypocrisies of Victorian morality and the rigid social convention imposed of women. The tragic stories of Tass reflects Hardy's beliefs in the crucial role of faith and social justice. So next, who wrote the poem of Dover Beach? It is very prominent uh, poem, Dover Beach. So you can guess it. There is four options: Matthews and Ross, Robert Browning, Tennyson's, Christina Rostois. Correct answer is Matthews and Ross. Dover Beach reflects the Victorian crisis of faith, and Note describes the retreats of religious belief in the modern world due to the scientific discoveries. The poem expresses a sense of spiritual uncertainty but emphasizes the importance of love and human loyalty. Next questions. Which novel was written by Charlotte Burnett? Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre's, Agnes Grey's, Middlemarch. So correct answer is B. Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is one of the most important Victorian novels. It represents the story of women's struggles for independence, dignity, and self-respect. The novel also explores themes such social classes, moralities, religious, genders, inequalities. Next questions. Who wrote the novel Vanity Fair? It is very important and very prominent novel in Victorian era. William Makepeace Thackeray, B. Charles Dickens, C. Thomas Hardy's, D. George Eliot. So correct answer is Thackeray's. Vanity Fair, 1847 to 48. It is a satirical novel portraying the greed, hypocrisy, and ambitions of Victorian societies. The central character is a Vicky Shaw, very prominent character of this novel. So don't forget this name. And represent the social climbing, the manipulations. Thackeray called it a novel without a hero. It is a subtitle of this novel, and there is actually no hero. Now next. Who wrote the poem of Church of the Light Bridge? Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, Matthews and Ross Hopkins. So, my dear student, the correct answer on the screen is Alfred Lord Tennyson, and we take a glance some explanations. The poem commemorates the heroic but tragic change of the British soldiers during the Cinnamon Wars. The Tennyson admires the courage and discipline of the soldiers who followed others despite the certain death. The poem celebrates duty, bravery, and patriotism. You can say that the main theme of this poem of the duty, priorities, and the positions. Now next, which Victorian novelist wrote the North and South? Elizabeth Gaskell, George Eliot, Charlotte Burnett, Thomas Hardy's. The correct answer is Elizabeth Gaskell's North and South, 1855, examining the conflict between the industrial employers and workers. The novel also contrasts the agriculture south of England and with the industries north. Gaskell addresses theme of class conflict, social justice, and moral understanding, which strongly influenced Victorian literature. Industrial revolutions, Renaissance humanisms, neoclassicisms, and restoration comedy. Actually, correct answer is industrial revolutions. The Industrial Revolutions transformed the Victorian society. It led to rapid urbanizations, factories, labors, poverty, social inequalities. Many Victorian writers such as Dickinson and Galsworth focused on these issues and demanded social reform. Next, which Victorian poet wrote the Dublin Markets? Christian Rostris, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Matthew Arnolds, Janet Smith Hopkins. The correct answer is Christian Rostris. Goblin Markets 1862 is one of the most famous Victorian narrative poem. It is a narrative poem. It combines the fairy tale elements with the symbolical meaning related to temptations, sacrifice, and sisterhood. Rothschild was associated with the pre-Raphaelist movement. Okay. So guys, don't forget, pre-Raphaelist movement is a very crucial moment of literary in the age of the Victorian. Who wrote the Victorian novel The Mayor of Castorbeach? It is very famous novel of the Thomas Hardy. So guys, published in 1886, and the novel tells the tragic stories of Michael Henchard. Michael Henchard is a very prominent protagonist of this novel and explore the themes of fad, characters, guilt, social repression. The work reflects the hardly pessimistic views of the life and societies with the whole life with the struggles, down and falls. Now next, who wrote The Wuthering Heights? Alima Barnes, Charlotte Barnett, and Emily Bront, and George Eliot. The correct answer is Emily Bront. Published in 1847, the novel is famous for intense passions of the dark atmosphere. It tells the tragic stories of Heathcliff and Catherine, explores themes of love, revenge, and absence. Who wrote the poem of Ulysses? The Alfred Tennyson, Browning, and Tolstoy. Alfred Tennyson. The poem presents the Greek heroes as a symbol of the courage and determination. It reflects the Victorian ideal and striving the perseverance despite difficulties. Who wrote The Woman in White? William Collins, Dickens, Hardy's Eliot. The correct answer is Wilkins Collins. This novel is one of the earliest examples of sensation fictions. Collins combined mysteries, suspension, physical tensions to create the new form of popular Victorian narrative. Who wrote Aurora Lie? Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Christina Rostois, and Rose Hopkins. So correct answer is A. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Aurora Lie is a long narrative poem about a female poet struggling for artistic identity. It addresses issues of women's education, social reform, and artistic ambitions. Next, who wrote The Importance of Being Earnest? Oscar Wilde, Shaw, Dickinson, Hardy. There is a correct answer is Oscar Wilde. This famous Victorian comedy satirizes the hypocrisy of upper class societies, and Wilde uses with irony and paradox to expose the social convention and artificial manners. Which Victorian poet wrote The School of Gypsies? It is a very important poem. Matthews and Norse, Browning, Tennyson, Rostois. Matthews and Norse is the correct answers. The poem contrasts the spiritual purity of the scholar gypsies with the conventions of the modern industrial society. Arnold Matthews criticizes the restless materialisms of the Victorian culture. Thank you very much for watching, and so please like, subscribe, and share among the literature's lovers. Thank you very much.